Good morning, good morning, good morning. Waiting till this goes on so that I can test it and make sure that the sound is on. It looks like it's on, but lately I have to check. So as soon as it's on, I know. It's on. Looks like we're on. Very good. Father God, thank you for helping me find a way. Thank you for what you do for us. Thank you for allowing us to come before you today to hear your word. I apologize, Father, because I've allowed malfunctioning equipment to stop me from doing what I have promised to do, which is to read your word daily, every morning. Father, I ask you to speak to us today. Jesus, I welcome you into this room, into our presence. Holy Spirit, I ask you to guide me as I read. And as for those that are watching, that they are moved to share this. I praise you, Lord, in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Now you'll notice a little difference. I'm wearing headphones because our mic was malfunctioning, but the word is too important for us to stop just because something malfunctions. So here we are. We're going to continue. We're using headphones now. That's fine as long as you can hear the word. Thank you, Father, for allowing us to do this. We are in Judges 19. Judges 19, and we are jumping right into the word this morning. Judges 19. In those days, when there was no king in Israel, a certain Levite residing in the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim took to himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. But his concubine became very angry with him, and she went away from him to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah, and was there some 4 months. Then her husband set out after her to speak tenderly to her and bring her back. He had with him his servant and a couple of donkeys. When he reached the father's house, the girl's father saw him and came with joy to meet him. His father in law, the girl's father, made him stay, and he remained with him 3 days. So they ate and drank, and he stayed there. On the fourth day, they got up early in the morning, and he prepared to go. But the girl's father said to his son in law, fortify yourself with a bit of food, and after that you may go. So the two men sat and ate and drank together, and the girl's father said to the man, why not spend the night and enjoy yourself? When the man got up to go, his father in law kept urging him until he spent the night there again. On the fifth day, he got up early in the morning to leave, and the girl's father said, fortify yourself. So they lingered until the day declined, and the two of them ate and drank. When the man with his concubine and his servant got up to leave, his father in law, the girl's father, said to him, look, the day has worn on until it is almost evening. Spend the night. See, the day has drawn to a close. Spend the night here and enjoy yourself. Tomorrow you can get up early in the morning for your journey and go home. But the man would not spend the night. He got up and departed and arrived opposite Jabes, that is Jerusalem. He had with him a couple of saddled donkeys and his concubine with him. When they were near Jabes, the day was far spent, and the servant said to his master, come now, let us turn aside to this city of the Jebusites and spend the night in it. But his master said to him, we will not turn aside into a city of foreigners who do not belong to the people of Israel, but we will continue on to Gibeah. Then he said to his servant, come, let us try to reach one of these places and spend the night at Gibeah or at Ramah. So they passed on with and went their way, and the sun went down on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. They turned aside there to go in and spend the night at Gibeah. He went in and sat down in the open square in the city. but no one took them in to spend the night. Then at evening there was an old man coming from his work in the field. The man was from the hill country of Ephraim, and he was residing in Gibeah. The people of the place were Benjamites. When the old man looked up and saw the wayfarer in the open square of the city, he said, "Where are you going, and where did you come from?" And he answered, "We are passing from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim, from which I come. And I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to my home. Nobody has offered to take me in. We, your servants, have straw and fodder for our donkeys, with bread and wine for me and the woman and the young man along with us. We need nothing more." The old man said, "Peace be with you. I will care for all your wants. Only do not spend the night in the square." So he brought him into his house and fed the donkeys. They washed their feet and ate and drank. While they were enjoying themselves, the men of the city, a perverse lot, surrounded the house and started pounding on the door. They said to the old man, the master of the house, "Bring out the man who came into your house, so that we may have intercourse with him." And the man, the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, "No, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Since this man is my guest, do not do this vile thing. Here are my virgin daughters and his concubine. Let me bring them out now. Ravish them and do whatever you want to them. But against this man do not do such a vile thing." But the men would not listen to him. So the men seized his concubine and put her out to them. They wantonly raped her and abused her all through the night until the morning. And as the dawn began to break, they let her go. As morning appeared, the woman came and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was until it was light. In the morning, her master got up, opened the doors to the house, and when he went out to go on his way, there was his concubine lying at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. "Get up," he told her, "where we are going." But there was no answer. Then he put her on the donkey, and the man set out for his home. When he had entered his house, he took a knife, and grasping his concubine, he cut her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her throughout all the territory of Israel. Then he commanded the men whom he sent, saying, "Thus you shall say to all the Israelites, has such a thing ever happened since the day that the Israelites came up from the land of Egypt until this day? Consider it, take counsel, and speak out." Then all the Israelites came out, from Dan to Beersheba, including the land of Gilead, and the congregation assembled in one body before the Lord at Mizpah. And the chiefs of all the people and all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 foot soldiers bearing arms. Now the Benjaminites heard that the people of Israel had gone up to Mizpah, and the Israelites said, "Tell us, how did this criminal act come about?" The Levite, her husband of the woman who was murdered, answered, "I came to Gibeah that belongs to Benjamin. I and my concubine to spend the night. The lords of Gibeah rose up against me and surrounded the house at night. They intended to kill me, and they raped my concubine until she died." Then I took my concubine and cut her into pieces and sent her throughout the whole extent of Israel's territory, for they have committed a vile outrage in Israel. So now, you Israelites, all of you, give your advice and counsel here. All the people got up as one, saying, "We will not any of us go to our tents, nor will any of us return to our houses. But now this is what we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. We will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 of 10,000, to bring provisions for the troops who are going to repay Gibeah of Benjamin for all the disgrace that they have done in Israel." So all the men of Israel gathered against the city, united as one. The tribes of Israel sent men throughout all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What crime is it that has been committed among you? Now then, hand over those scoundrels of Gibeah, so that we may put them to death, and purge the evil from Israel." But the Benjaminites would not listen to their kinsfolk, the Israelites. The Benjaminites came together out of the towns of Gibeah to go out to battle against the Israelites. On that day, the Benjaminites mustered 26,000 armed men for their towns, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah. Of all this force, there were 700 picked men who were left handed. Every one could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. And the Israelites, apart from Benjamites, mustered 400,000 armed men, all of them warriors. The Israelites proceeded to go up to Bethel, where they inquired of God, "Which of us shall go up first to battle against the Benjaminites?" And the Lord answered, "Judah shall go up first." Then the Israelites got up in the morning and encamped against Gibeah. The Israelites went out to battle against Benjamin, and the Israelites drew up in the battle line against them at Gibeah. The Benjaminites came out of Gibeah and struck down on that day 22,000 of the Israelites. The Israelites went before the Lord until the evening, and they inquired of the Lord, "Shall we again draw near to battle against our kinsfolk of the Benjaminites?" And the Lord said, "Go up against them." The Israelites took courage and again formed the battle line in the same place where they had formed it on the first day. So the Israelites advanced against the Benjaminites the second day. Benjamin moved out against them from Gibeah the second day and struck down 18,000 of the Israelites, all of them armed men. Then all the Israelites, the whole army, went back to Bethel and wept, sitting there before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening. Then they offered burnt offerings and sacrifices of well being before the Lord. And the Israelites inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant of the God was there in those days, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, ministered before it in those days. And they were saying, "Shall we go out once more to battle against our kinsfolk, the Benjaminites, or shall we desist?" And the Lord answered, "Go up, for tomorrow I will give them into your hand." So Israel stationed men in ambush around Gibeah. Then the Israelites went up against the Benjaminites on the third day, and set themselves in array against Gibeah as before. When the Benjaminites went out against the army, they were drawn away from the city as before. They began as before they began to inflict casualties on the troops along the main roads, one of which goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah. as well as the open country, killing about 30 men of Israel. Then the Benjaminites thought, they are being routed before us as previously. But the Israelites said, let us retreat and draw them away from the city toward the roads. The main body of the Israelites drew back its battle line to Baal Tamar, while those Israelites who were in the ambush rushed out of their place westward of Geba. There came against Gibeah 10,000 picked men out of Israel, and the battle was fierce. But the Benjaminites did not realize that disaster was close upon them. The Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel, and the Israelites destroyed 25,100 men of Benjamin that day, all of them armed. Then the Benjaminites saw that they were defeated. The Israelites gave ground to Benjamin because they trusted to the troops in ambush that they had stationed against Gibeah. The troops in ambush rushed quickly upon Gibeah. Then they put the whole city to the sword. Now the agreement between the main body of Israel and the men in ambush was that when they set up a cloud of smoke out of the city, the main body of Israel should turn in battle. But Benjamin had begun to inflict casualties on the Israelites, killing about 30 of them. So they thought, surely they are defeated before us as in the first battle. But when a column of smoke began to rise out of the city, the Benjaminites looked behind them, and there was the whole city going up in smoke towards the sky. Then the main body of Israel turned, and the Benjaminites were dismayed, for they saw that disaster was close upon them. Therefore they turned away from the Israelites in the direction of the wilderness. But the battle overtook them, and those who came out of the city were slaughtering them in between. Cutting down the Benjaminites, they pursued them from Noah and trod them down as far as the place east of Gibeah. 18,000 Benjaminites fell, and all them courageous fighters. When they turned and fled towards the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, 5,000 of them were cut down in the main roads, and they were pursued as far as Gidom, and 2,000 of them were slain. Then all who fell on that day were 25,000 arms bearing men, all of them courageous fighters. But 600 turned and fled towards the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and remained at the rock of Rimmon for 4 months. Meanwhile, the Israelites turned back against the Benjaminites and put them to the sword. So the city, the people, the animals, and all that remained. Also the remaining towns they set on fire. Chapter 21. Now the Israelites had sworn at Mizpah, not one of us shall give his daughter in marriage to Benjamin. And the people came to Bethel and sat there until evening before God, and they lifted up their voices and wept bitterly. They said, O Lord, the God of Israel, why has it come to pass that there today that there should be one tribe lacking in Israel? On the next day the people got up early and built an altar there and offered burnt offerings and sacrifices of well-being. Then the Israelites said, which of all the tribes of Israel did not come up to in the assembly of the Lord? For a solemn oath had been taken concerning whoever did not come up to the Lord at Mizpah, saying, that one shall be put to death. But the Israelites had compassion for Benjamin, their kin, and said, one tribe is cut off from Israel this day. We shall do What shall we do for the wives, for those who are left, since we have sworn by the Lord that we will not give them any of our daughters as wives? But they said, is there anyone from the tribes of Israel who did not come up to the Lord at Mizpah? It turned out that no one from Jabesh Gilead had come to the camp to assemble. For when the roll was called among the people, not one of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead was there. So the congregation sent 12,000 soldiers there and commanded them, go put the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead to the sword, including the women and the little ones. This is what you shall do. Every male and every woman that has lain with a male you shall devote to destruction. And they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins who had never slept with a man, or brought them to the camp at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. Then the whole congregation sent word to the Benjamites, who were at the rock of Rimmon, and proclaimed peace to them. Benjamin returned at that time, and they gave them the women who they had saved alive of the women of Jabesh Gilead, but they did not suffice for them. The people had compassion on Benjamin because the Lord had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. So the elders of the congregation said, what shall we do for wives for those who are left, since there are no women left in Benjamin? And they said, there must be heirs for the survivors of Benjamin, in order that a tribe may not be blotted out of Israel. Yet we cannot give any of our daughters to them as wives, for the Israelites have sworn, cursed by anyone who gives a wife to Benjamin. So they said, look, a yearly festival of the Lord is taking place at Shiloh, which is north of Bethel, on the east of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, south of Lebonah. And they instructed the Benjaminites, saying, go and lie in wait in the vineyards, and watch when the young women of Shiloh come out to dance in the dances. Then comes out to the vineyard, and each one of you carry off a wife for himself from the young women of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. Then, if their fathers or their brothers come to complain to us, we will say to them, be generous and allow us to have them, because we did not capture in battle a wife for each man. But neither did you incur guilt by giving your daughters to them. The Benjaminites did so. They took wives for each of them from the dancers whom they abducted. Then they went and returned to their territory and rebuilt their towns and lived in them. So the Israelites departed from there at that time by tribes and families, and they went out from there to their own territories. In those days there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their own eyes. We're now starting the book of Ruth. First chapter in Ruth. Ruth 1. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to live in the country of Moab, he and his wife and two sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his two sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her two sons. These two Moabite wives, the name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. When they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so that the woman was left without her two sons and her husband. Then she started to return with her daughters in law from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had considered his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she had been living. She sent she and her two daughters in law, and they went on their way to go back to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her two daughters in law, go back each of you to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. And the Lord grant that you may find security, each of you in the house of your husband. Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud. They said to her, no, we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go up with me? Do I still have sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. Even if I thought there was hope for me, even if I should have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you then wait until they were grown? Would you then refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it has been far more bitter for me than for you, because the hand of the Lord has turned against me. Then they wept aloud. Orpah kissed her mother in law, but Ruth clung to her. So she said, see, your sister in law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister in law. But Ruth said, do not press me to leave you or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. There will I be buried. May the Lord do thus and see to me, and more as well, even if death parts me from you. When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the woman said, is this Naomi? She said to them, call me no longer Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why, why call me Naomi, when the Lord has dealt harshly with me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me? So Naomi returned together with Ruth the Moabite, her daughter in law, who came back with her from the country of Moab. They came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Chapter 2. Now Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's side, a prominent rich man, of the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain, behind someone in whose sight I may find favor. She said to her, go, my daughter. So she went, she came and gleaned in the field behind the reapers. And it happened when she came to a part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Just then Boaz came from Bethlehem. He said to the reapers, the Lord be with you. They answered, the Lord bless you. Then Boaz said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, to whom does this young woman belong? The servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, she is a Moabite who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the reapers. So she came, and she has been on her feet from early morning until now without resting even for a moment. Then Boaz said to Ruth, now listen, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Keep your eyes on the field that is being reaped, and follow behind them. I have ordered the young men not to bother you. If you get thirsty, go to the vessels and drink from what the young men have drawn. Then she fell prostrate with her face to the ground and said to him, why have I found favor in your sight, that you should take notice of me when I am a foreigner? But Boaz answered her, all that you have done for your mother in law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and your mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. May the Lord reward you for your deeds, and may you have a full reward from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. Then she said, may I continue to find favor in your sight, my Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant, even though I am not of your servants. At mealtime, Boaz said to her, Come here and eat some of this bread and dip your morsel in the sour wine. So she sat beside the reapers, and he heaped up for her some parched grain. She ate until she was satisfied, and she had some left over. When she got up to glean, Boaz instructed his young men, let her glean even among the standing sheaves, but do not reproach her. You must also pull out some handfuls for her from the bundles and leave them for her to glean. Do not rebuke her. So she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. She picked it up and came into the town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she had gleaned. Then she took out and gave her what was left over, and after she herself had been satisfied. Her mother-in-law said to her, where did you glean today, and where have you worked? Blessed be the man who took notice of you. So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and said, the name of the man with whom I worked today was Boaz. Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, Blessed be the blessed be he by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living for the or the dead. Naomi also said to her, the man is a relative of ours, one of our nearest kin. Then Ruth the Moabite said, he even said to me, stay close to my servants until they have finished all my harvest. Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is better, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, otherwise you might be bothered in another field. So she stayed close to the young women of Boaz, gleaning until the end of the barley and wheat harvest. And she lived with her mother-in-law. Chapter 3. Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, my daughter, I need to seek some security for you, so that it may be well with you. Now here's our kinsman Boaz, with whose young women you have been working with. See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Now wash and anoint yourself, and put on your best clothes, and go down to the threshing floor, and do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, observe the place where he lies. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. She said to her, all that you tell me, I will do. So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had instructed her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk, and he was in a contented mood, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came stealthily and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight the man was startled and turned over, and there, lying at his feet, was a woman. He said, who are you? And she answered, I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak over your servant, for you are next of kin. He said, may you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. The last instance of your loyalty is better than your first. You have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask, for the assembly of my people know that you are a worthy woman. But now, though it is true that I am a near kinsman, there is another kinsman more closely related than I. Remain this night, and in the morning, if he will act as next of kin of you, good, let him do it. If he is not willing to act as next of kin for you, then as the Lord lives, I will act as next of kin for you. Lie down until the morning. So she lay at his feet until the morning, but got up before one person could recognize another, for he said, I must not be known that the it must not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Then he said, bring the cloak you are wearing and hold it out. So she held it, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her back. Then he went into the city. She came to her mother-in-law and said, How how did things go with you, my daughter? Then she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, He gave me these 6 measures of barley, for he said, do not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. She replied, wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today. Chapter 4. No sooner had Boaz gone up to the gate and sat down there, that the next of kin of whom Boaz had spoken came passing by. So Boaz said, come over, friend, and sit down here. And he went over and sat down. Then Boaz took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit down here. So they sat down. He then said to the next of kin, Naomi, who has come from the country of Moab, is selling the parcel of land that belonged to our kinsman Elimelech. So I thought I will tell you of it, and say, buy it in the presence of those sitting here, in the presence of the elders, my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not, tell me, so that I may know, for there is no one prior to you to redeem it, and I come after you. So he said, I will redeem it. Then Boaz said, the day you acquire the field from the hand of Naomi, you are also acquiring Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead man, to maintain the dead man's name on his inheritance. As at this, the next of kin said, I could not redeem it for myself without damaging my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption yourself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the custom in former times of Israel concerning the redeeming and exchanging. To confirm the transaction, the one the one took off the sandal and gave it to the other. This was the manner of attesting in Israel. So when the next of kin said to Boaz, acquire for yourself, he took off his sandal. Then Boaz said to the elders of all the people, today you are witnesses that I have acquired from the hand of Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech, and all that belonged to Chilion and Mahlon. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, the wife of Mahlon, to be my wife, to maintain the dead man's name and on his inheritance, in order that the name of the dead man may not be cut off from his kindred and from the gate of his native place. Today you are witnesses. Then all the people who were at the gate, along with the elders, said, we are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah,